have discussed what is a semiconductor, uh, where, is, where is the position of Fermi level in case of intrinsic and extrinsic semiconductor. We have discussed what is electron and hole concentration, understood what is law of mass action, and mathematically proved where the Fermi level lies in case of intrinsic semiconductor. So we have mathematically proved that Fermi level lies exactly at the center of energy gap. This video, let us continue with the expression for electrical conductivity in a semiconductor. So before we start understanding semiconductors, get the derivation, let us imagine there is a semiconductor in which we know in a semiconductor electrical conductivity is due to contribution by both electrons and holes. So at outset, at first, let me assume conductivity due to electrons only. Okay, and this is a semiconductor. Let A be the cross-sectional area of the semiconductor and let current I be flowing in a direction. Let V be the velocity of the electrons, because when I apply voltage, electrons are drifted. They start moving with some velocity, drift velocity. So let me say let V be the electrons moving in the direction to the right side as in shown in the diagram, and A is the cross-sectional area. So in 1 second, I can say the electrons travel a distance V meters. How is it? We know V is equal to d by t, or distance is velocity into time. So when I substitute t is equal to 1, d is equal to V. So I can say all electrons travel a distance of V meters in 1 second. So what is the volume swept by electrons? That is going to be V. You can see a small cylinder in the diagram showing V and cross-sectional area A. So that means in every second, all the electrons are moving through a volume of V into A. V represents the length and A is the cross-sectional area. It is like cylinder, cross-sectional area. The volume of a cylinder is pi r square into h. So pi r square is area, cross-sectional area h or V in our case, the distance moved. So I mean in every second, electrons are moving through a volume V into A. So let me say if there are Ne number of electrons and E is the charge of every electron. So how many charges are flowing per second? I can say Ne into E into AV. So V into A is the volume. If I multiply by Ne, I can say Ne into Va, number of electrons are flowing through the volume every second. And if E is the charge of electron, if I multiply by E, I get the total charge of all the electrons passing through it, passing through the volume Va. It is like you have a book of 5 rupees, and what is the cost of 4 books? You multiply 5 into 4. Similarly, E is the charge of electrons. So what is the total charge of all the electrons passing through it? Number of electrons passing is Ne into Va. So what is the total charge of all the electrons? I should multiply number of electrons by E. And we know charge flowing per unit time is actually current. So I can say as in a semiconductor, current flowing per second, current flowing is I is equal to Ne into E into A and V. Please note this Ne, E is a suffix to N, indicating number of electrons. So, but so far, understanding electrons are passing through a unit distance V in every second, we have written the expression for current. But we are not interested in current, we want conductivity. So let us use this expression of current, I, whatever we have derived, in getting the expression for conductivity. Let us start with what is current density. Okay, so current density is current flowing per unit area or per unit volume. In our case, it is per unit area. So I write current density as current. We have already derived the expression Ne E A into V. Let me divide by A. So as a result, I have got current density of all the electrons passing through it. passing through unit area. That is J is NE into E into V. Okay. Please note we are trying to derive the expression for conductivity. So to derive, we have first derived the expression for current. We have written the expression for current. Once we know what is current, I can find out what is current density. That is what is done. Now, how to make use of this current density? Let us use the definition for mobility of electrons. Mobility of electrons is velocity upon electric field. I can define it as how, in simple words, how fast the electrons are moving in the presence of unit electric field. I can call it as mobility. Mu E is mobility of electrons is equal to V by E, or velocity is V is equal to mu E into E. So in this equation 1, J, current density, I can know what is the number of electron concentration. We know what is the charge of electron. V was unknown. We didn't know how to measure velocity. So to measure velocity, we have made use of this mobility equation. And from this, I know what is mobility. We can measure what is mobility of electron, and what we know what is the applied electric field. Hence, I can find velocity. So let us substitute for velocity in equation 1. Because in equation 1, velocity was unknown parameter. We didn't know how to write velocity, how to find out velocity. So making use of mobility of electrons, we have written this. So on substituting for velocity, this is equation 1. I have rewritten once again. I have substituted for velocity. Now velocity has become mu E into E. I'll call this as equation 3. Now let us use Ohm's law. This is your actual equation for Ohm's law. J is equal to sigma into E, where J is current density, sigma is conductivity, and E is the electric field. If I apply the units and dimensions of current density and electric field, we can reduce this to V is equal to IR. We all are familiar with Ohm's law as V is equal to IR. I can derive come up to V is equal to IR from this equation, J is equal to sigma E. So interested students can try substitute for units of current density and all electric field. Try to simplify, you will get V is equal to IR. So let us use this form of Ohm's law. Why? Because we are interested in deriving conductivity, sigma. Because conductivity has equation J in it, that is why we have derived current density so far. That is in equation 3. So let us equate equation 3 and 4. On equating, what do we notice? Electric field E on both the sides gets cancelled. So I can let me write this conductivity as sigma E, because in the beginning of derivation, we have assumed let us derive the conductivity due to electrons only. Okay, though we know electrons and holes are both responsible for conduction of current, at present we have derived the expression for conductivity due to electrons only. That is equation 5. So similarly, on applying the same explanation, I can derive the expression for conductivity due to holes only. That is sigma H is equal to NH E into mu H. So because we know conductivity in semiconductor is due to both electrons and holes. So let me substitute for sigma E and sigma H. On substituting, I get like this. So the equation, what is mentioned here, this equation represents conductivity in an extrinsic semiconductor, that is which is due to both electrons and holes. Okay. So let us write in case of intrinsic semiconductor. So the above equation have rewritten as sigma extrinsic is equal to E into Ne into mu E plus NH into mu H. This is an intrinsic semiconductor. And in intrinsic semiconductor, we know the special property in intrinsic semiconductor, that is number of electrons and number of holes are equal to each other. So let me call them as Ni. On substituting for Ne and NH as Ni in the above equation, I get conductivity in intrinsic semiconductor is equal to E Ni into mu E plus mu H, where mu E and mu H are mobilities of electrons and holes. So in this derivation, first we have derived the expression conductivity in semiconductor due to electrons only, assuming there are only electrons. And we can write similarly, if I derive the same concept applicable for holes, I get the expression for conductivity for holes, and then substituted for total conductivity in a semiconductor as addition of conductivity due to electrons and holes, and generalized for an intrinsic semiconductor. Now this expression, this is a schematic diagram showing where is the Fermi level exactly at the center of energy gap. Now, the last concept in semiconductors, let us discuss Hall effect. Hall effect is a special case of Fleming's left-hand rule uh, applied to a semiconductor. So in semiconductor, if you make current flow through it, current is flowing through it in one direction. And if the same current flowing semiconductor is placed in a magnetic field, there is a special property happening. The condition is the direction of magnetic field and current should be mutually perpendicular to each other. Okay, I have to take care of the condition that the direction of current and the direction of magnetic field are mutually at right angles to each other. So when I place a current carrying semiconductor in a magnetic field, we see a different phenomenon happening. This phenomenon is called Hall effect. So what is this Hall effect? When a material carrying current I is placed in a magnetic field at right angles to the direction of current flow, so Hall effect happens only if current and magnetic field are mutually perpendicular to each other. What is observed? An electric field is induced across the material in a direction perpendicular to both magnetic field and current flow. So what happens when I maintain the condition that current and magnetic field are perpendicular to each other, in the third direction, that is perpendicular to both current and magnetic field, an electric field is produced. So this phenomenon is called Hall effect. So if you understand this is a diagram, a semiconductor. If I assume that current is flowing along x-axis, and if I place a semiconductor in a magnetic field which is along z direction, then electric field is produced along y-axis. This directions could be reversed also. I can have magnetic field along x-axis, current on y-axis, then um, electric field will be negative y direction. So any direction is okay, but I and B should be perpendicular to each other. So let us understand what is this. What happens is when I keep an a semiconductor in an electric field, current is flowing, and we know that when there is a charge flowing in a magnetic field, the electrons experience Lorentz force. That is written like this. BFL is equal to, remember we have written this as BQV sine theta. Theta is 90 degree in our case because angle between current and magnetic field is 90 degree. So as a result, sine theta is 1. So Lorentz force becomes only minus BeV, where B is the magnetic field, E is the charge of the electron, and V is the drift velocity or velocity of the electrons. So all the electrons flowing along x-axis, they experience Lorentz force. And now Fleming's left-hand rule comes into picture. Fleming's left-hand rule is applicable when current and magnetic field are perpendicular to each other. Okay, let us apply Fleming's left-hand rule to this diagram. Hold your first three fingers mutually perpendicular to each other, where the forefinger indicates the current and thumb indicates the magnetic field. The middle finger indicates the direction of electric field produced. So hold your first three fingers in the directions as mentioned in the diagram. And when you hold the first three fingers, you notice that the middle finger, which is representing the electric field, points downwards. Okay, so when I hold it in the diagram, forefinger is on x-axis, thumb will be out of the page, that is the z direction. So as a result, the middle finger will be pointing downwards, that is towards the bottom of the slab. So because of that, all the electrons are forced to come and occupy the lower end of the slab because of Lorentz force. So one end of the slab becomes more negative. As a result, the opposite side of the slab becomes more positive. Because more positive charges are accumulated on the top end and more negative charges accumulated at the bottom end, an electric field is established. A potential difference called VH is established, and I say there is an electric field EH because of more electrons occupying on the lower end of the slab. So on applying Fleming's left-hand rule, we see that there is a potential VH happening between the top and bottom end of the slab, and electric field EH is established. So what we know, a force experienced by electron in an electric field is E into EH. So I am writing it as particularly FH because this force is because of Hall effect happening, which is equal to minus E into EH. So at equilibrium, these two forces should balance to each other. Which are the forces acting on electron? Lorentz force because of electron moving in magnetic field, and field force due to Hall field happening in the semiconductor. Because there is an electric field EH, electrons experience electric force because of EH. Because there is a Lorentz force, electrons experience because of Lorentz force. So at equilibrium, at least these two forces should be equal to each other. So when these two forces are equal to each other, I get EH is equal to B into V, because E gets cancelled on both the sides. Now in the diagram, let D be the distance between the top and bottom end of the slab, and W be the thickness of the semiconductor slab. In that case, I can write electric field is V by D. We know what is electric field. It is voltage applied per unit length. I can write it as V by L or V by M. So electric field is applied, produced between the top and bottom end of the slab. I can write it as VH by D, or VH is equal to EH into D. Please note, we are trying to derive what is the expression for Hall voltage. We are trying to derive what is VH. So we have to substitute for EH from equation 3 in the above equation. That is, we have to substitute for EH is equal to BV in the equation VH is equal to EH into D. We are trying to derive Hall voltage. So on substituting for EH, I get Hall voltage is BV into D. So because we are interested in deriving Hall voltage, we are interested in equation 4. But in equation 4, B is a measurable quantity. I know what is the strength of magnetic field. D is also a measurable quantity. I can find out what is the separation between the two ends of the slab of semiconductor. But V is not known to us. We don't know what is the velocity of electron. So if I know what is velocity of electron, I know what is Hall voltage VH. So let us try to find out what is velocity of electron. So J is equal to I by A. Let us make use of the concept of current density. Current density is I, current is I. Area is W into D. Please refer to the diagram. W into D refers to the area of cross section. And we also know J is equal to NE into V. This we have got from the electrical conductivity derivation. NE is usually referred as charge density. So I'm writing NE as rho V. I'm equating to I by omega D. I by omega D I have got from the what is concept of current density, and J is equal to rho into V I have got from the derivation of electrical conductivity in semiconductors. So on equating this, I get V is equal to I by rho WD. So by doing this, by using the concept of electrical density, I have found out what is velocity of electrons. Let us substitute for velocity of electrons in equation 4. Equation 4 was VH is equal to B into V into D. As I told you earlier, we are interested in finding out what is Hall voltage. So in some time before, we didn't know what was velocity of electron. Now we have found out what is velocity of electron, and let us substitute here. So when I substitute it here, D gets cancelled off. I get Hall voltage is given by BI by rho W. Now please note, BI, rho W, all these are measurable quantities. Hence I can find out Hall voltage. Let us discuss the last concept called Hall coefficient. Now, whatever the electric field is established in a semiconductor obviously depends on how much current is flowing or what is the current density and what is the strength of applied field. If the applied field is more, naturally the force experienced by electrons is more, so electric field is developed high. Or if there are more electrons are flowing, so more electrons occupy the lower end of the slab and hence high potential, high VH is developed. So I can say electric field developed in a semiconductor in this case depends on what is the strength of magnetic field and what is the strength of what is current density. So when I remove the proportionality sign, I have to replace by a constant RH. This RH is called Hall coefficient, which is a property of a material, which is a fixed quantity for a particular type of a material. So RH is EH by J into B, J into B, I'm sorry. EH, electric field is B into V. You can refer to the equation above. We have already written EH as B into V. And also current density is rho into V or NE into V, which we have written in the previous equations. Let us substitute that so that this like quantities get cancelled off. As a result, I get RH is equal to 1 by NE. 1 by NE is usually charge density we represent as rho. So RH is equal to 1 by rho. So the advantage of Hall effect is we can find out any semiconductor, whether it is an N-type or a P-type semiconductor, by subjecting it to a magnetic field and finding out the Hall coefficient. So Hall coefficient will be negative if it is an N